Hello there, welcome to Beads Jar. I'm Natalia, and in today's tutorial I am going to be showing you how to make this beautiful seed bead ring with a very elegant emerald coloured Rivoli from Swarovski. So if you want to learn how to make this beautiful piece of jewellery, stay tuned and find out what ingredients we're going to need. So to make this emerald ring, you're going to need some of these Miyuki seed beads. These are galvanized yellow gold and they are 11 O's. We're also going to be using some champagne colored Miyuki. These are Delicas in 11O. We're going to be using the champagne colored Miyuki in size 15. We're also using size 15 emerald green Miyuki seed beads. The main component of this ring is this gorgeous Rivoli, this Swarovski, and it is a 14mm. It's called Emerald Haze. Isn't it gorgeous? So that's going to go right in the center. We're also using some silk cord. This is like a forest green color. I'm going to be adding some Quick 1-drop instant adhesive. And we'll also use lots of fire line. So we're using some smoke colored fire line, and this is £6. And then beading needles, I've got some size 11 John James beading needles. So I'm just using 1 or 2 of those. This is the washer ring that we'll use at the center of our ring. And then to create the ring shank, we're going to be doing peyote stitch, and I like the quick start peyote cards because they're just so easy to use. And this is using the size 11 one. And then finally, to cut your fire line, I'm just going to be using some wire cutters. So let's get started and making our ring. Let's get started, and we're going to take our washer ring. So you need to wrap some of this cord. So any cord will do, because you're going to be sewing through it with your beading needle. So it needs to be something fairly fine. And what we're going to do is just to take the end of the cord. I'm just going to take quite a bit of it and then just start to wrap it around. So this is almost like, you know, if you're ever making pom-poms, it's the same kind of process where you're just weaving the thread in and out of a circle. So you're going to take the thread all the way around to cover the entire piece of the washer. So I'm just got a little bit of sellotape on here, so I'm going to peel it off. So this is one that I did earlier on just to create the piece so you can see. So I'm just going to cut off the little end bits, and then we have a complete washer covered in all of the cord. So let's take our Quick glue, and I'm just going to put a little drop of glue onto the ends of the cord. And this glue is brilliant because it bonds instantly. So just put a little drop on there as well. And I'll let that dry for a second. And it just stops your cord ends from flying off. So you've got a complete circle covered in the cord. And the next thing that we're going to need are our slightly larger sized Miyuki beads. So we've got the size 11 galvanized yellow gold. I'll put a few of those out onto my beading mat. And then I have threaded some of my fire line onto my size 11 needle. So you're going to need a really decent length of fire line. So about 3/4 of a meter or a meter long length of the fire line. Just double the thread over. Okay, now you're ready to start threading your 11O beads on. So take your beading needle and just push it up through one of the threads in your ring. And I'm going to pull the thread all the way through. Just leave a little bit of a tail on there, and then take the thread back through, loop it over the top of your needle just to anchor that thread in place. I'm going to take it a little bit further along again just to give it a little bit of security when we start adding our beads on. Okay, and then take the tail out of the way. Once you've got a few of your beads on, you'll be able to just snip that tail off. All right, so next thing we need to do is to add some beads onto our needle. So I'm going to take 6 of these Miyuki size 11 So I've got 4 on there, 5, 6. And I'm just going to take the needle through one of the threads on my ring and then pull. And you'll see that you get like this little loop happening. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to take another 6 of those Miyuki beads. 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to take the needle through a couple of the threads around the edge of the ring. So making sure that you're keeping right along the edge, because this is the part where we're going to add some more beads around just a little bit further in, but we want lots of space here for the Rivoli to sit. We don't want the beads crowding it too much. And this is a slightly different way of creating a bezel for a Rivoli. I know that some of you will have seen a way of doing it where we put peyote stitch and capture the Rivoli, but what I wanted to do is to make sure that you can see as much of the Rivoli as possible. So that is what you're going to do. You're just going to continue loading 6 beads onto your needle, taking them all the way around those little loops until you end up with something that looks like this. So it does look quite fluffy and it's amazing. So I've got a little hole, a little gap in there where I stuck that down. Don't worry, it will get covered up so that the Rivoli is going to get stuck on top of there. So you'll see that these are slightly closer underneath than they are on top. And then the next step that we're going to do is to start to add in our green coloured beads. So these are the size 15s, the emerald colours. And then we want some little gold ones as well. And then what we're going to do is to put 4 of the little emerald ones on. These are quite small, so they're difficult to see. Definitely need a magnifying lamp for these. 1 of the gold. Let's bring them in a little bit more. And then another 4. So you've got 8 of the green ones and they are separated in the middle by the little gold one. And then wherever our thread is, we're just going to take that through as close to the edge as you possibly can get it. This is where your needle gets bent quite a lot, but it's okay. And as you pull it through, what you end up with is again another little loop, but you're interspersing it with the green and the gold. So they're slightly smaller, but it creates this lovely graduated effect and it adds a really nice complement to the green that's going to be in the middle of the Rivoli. So I'll do that again so you can see it. And so 4 beads, which are beautiful to work with, but tiny to see. 1 of the gold ones, and then another 4 of the green going onto your needle there. And then you're just going to take that through. And again, I want to make sure that we get that as close to the edge as we possibly can. And you're going to be working your way all the way around the center of the ring to create this lovely effect that is going to sit around the Rivoli. So I'm going to take those beads all the way around and come back when I've completed it and show you the next stage. So now we've finished adding that second row of beads, and you'll see that we have quite a fluffy bezel for the Rivoli to sit within. So I'm going to now add the bezel, and I'm using some of this Fevikwik glue. It works very well with the Swarovski crystals, and you'll see that the Rivoli has this beautiful emerald colour on the top. It's all nicely faceted. and then you've got that silvery coating on the back. So that is going to be sitting inside here. Now before we do this, what I want to do is to pull those beads back as far as possible to create this ridge for the Rivoli to sit within. So make sure that the beads aren't intruding on that space. And then take your Febiquick and you're just going to add little drops around the inside. Just be very careful how you administer the glue into here. It dries very quickly. And then we're just going to pop the Rivoli into there. So you're going to push it down really hard. And the great thing about doing it this way is what it does is it has a little point underneath, and that doesn't stick into the skin. So it's going to stay really nicely in this space, and it's a really good setting for the Rivoli, as you can see. So what you can do is just leave it dry. I would leave it about an hour, even though it's very quick setting, just leave it to bed in, and use, for the first couple of minutes, just hold it in place so that it gets a really good grip onto the surface below. And then after about an hour, you're ready to begin to just move the crystals up, and so that it creates a really nice bezel around the stone. And then what we want to do while we're waiting for that to dry is to create a shank for the ring using peyote stitch. So next we're going to make our ring shank, and I'm going to do peyote stitch, and I always like to use the quick start cards because I just think they make so much easier, especially when you're making quite a long thin piece like a ring shank. So I've taken quite a good length of my file line. I've got about 3/4 meter there, and I've threaded it onto my needle, and then I'm just taking a stop bead. So I've got a size 11/0 gold bead there. I'm going to leave about an 8 centimeter tail on the end of my stop bead. I'm just going to go back up through the bead, and you don't want that too tightly on there because you want to be able to slide it off at the end. So I'm just going to leave it on there. And then you take your card and you fold it in half. Now you don't want it really sharply creased. I do show some of the tutorials where I show you how to use these quick start peyote cards in great detail. So I'm going to fly through this quite quickly. I'm just going to take my needle up through that little hole that is at the right hand side of the card to make sure that your tail is out of the way. And then we're going to do an even count peyotes. You're going to take your needle down through the first hole in the card, so you just open it up slightly so you can see it down there, and then make sure that your stop bead is tightly inside there, and then take your needle up through that first groove, which is where you're going to begin your peyote stitch. So you're going to take one of these Delicas on the end of your needle and then take the needle back through. So we're going to do 4 Delicas. That is the width of the ring shank that I'm making. You can make it the width that you like. Now this is quite a chunky ring, so I do like to have a chunkier band on it. Just sort of fits weight wise and scale wise. So we're just taking the needle up and down through those grooves to create the row of stitches. Taking a bead on and then taking the needle back through the same hole. And also be very careful not to open the card because the beads do slip through. And then when we get to our 4th one, that is the width that we want. So that's my last bead going in there. And then I'm going to turn my card around and I'm going to go in this direction. So I'm going to take my needle up through that hole, the next hole alongside the last bead. Then I'm going to go back through the bead on there. So that is literally peyote. And the reason for using the card is it just makes it so much easier to get that alignment when you start the rows off. When you do your first 2 or 3 rows, that is the most awkward, getting the tension and everything. This is why these cards are so great, because it keeps everything lined up really nicely. And then you just turn around and then you do the same again. You're just going to take a bead and then go through the ones that you are have the little rose sticking up at the top. So take that as long as long a length as you need. So I have a ring mandrel, and what I do with my peyote is I just measure it. Just take those beads out of the way. I just measure it on my mandrel to see the kind of width of the ring that I need, and then how the ring's actually going to fit on there. So that is long enough. I've created another piece of peyote stitch for my ring shank. Now I've got my tail thread there, and I'm going to sew that into, I'm going to thread the needle on the end of that and sew it into the other side of the ring when I attach it. But I'm going to take this side first of all. I've still got my needle on there, and I have actually got on my centerpiece of the ring that I made earlier on, I've taken the working thread, I've taken it through to the back because that is where I'm going to sew my ring shank on. So because I've already got a working thread on here, I'm just going to switch this around to the other way where I don't have a working thread, and this is where we're going to attach the first part of our ring shank. So it's going to go onto here, so I'm just going to attach it to one of the beads. So taking my needle through the bead, and then it's going to sit here. So you can, when you do this, put it on the ring mandrel and work from there if you want to. If not, you can just start to sew your ring shank onto the beads that you've got here on your centerpiece of your ring. And just work carefully, work very slowly doing this. So you're going to take your needle through the first one of those beads that is sticking out there, and then take it along one of these underneath, and just basically sewing it on. Now when you finish that, what you need to do is to go back over a couple of times just to make it really, really secure with your thread. So you're working back and forth over and over again, so it's not just secured with one line of thread. It's been the needle has gone through 3 or 4 times. And then when it comes to taking the other side of your ring over, I do find it easier to use a mandrel. If you've got a mandrel, brilliant. If you don't, you could use an object that's round like a mandrel. So you could use a marker pen or the handle of a kitchen implement. Get resourceful with it. That's what you need to do. So then what you need to do is to take your other working thread, the one that we had here. Let's get my needle back. So you're going to take that over the other side of your ring shank, and then you use your working thread that you already have coming out of the other side of your ring to secure that other side of the ring shank there. This little extra piece of tail thread, you can just thread a needle onto there and then take it through a few of the beads just to secure it off, and then you can remove that thread, and there your ring will be complete, like this one here. Okay, so you can see where I just attach the ring shank using the edges of that peyote stitch and attach them to those size 11/0 gold beads there and on the same side. And that is our ring. It looks really beautiful on. It's a really lovely way of showcasing the Rivoli that catches the light so beautifully, and the colours are really complementary as well. Now we have lots of different seed beads and different coloured Rivoli, so make it your own, choose the colour combinations that you like, but I think that the emerald green is particularly striking. So I hope you've enjoyed learning all about how to set a Swarovski Rivoli into a ring in a different way using our lovely seed beads and also using peyote stitch for the ring band. If you'd like to catch up with lots of other tutorials we'll be bringing you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the show more section where you'll find links to all of the products I've used today and the other thousands of jewellery making components that we have for you on our website. So I hope to catch up with you in future tutorials, and bye for now.